over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% rate in April.
Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences, like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million using its locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang.
For thousands of years, one breath has endured. More than a martial art, it is the Korean way of life. Taekwondo, connecting the world. Smarter than ever, Taekwondo leaps toward a new future, connecting the world through a single movement. The spirit of Korea meets the boundless energy of K-pop. No longer just a sport, Taekwondo is at the heart of K-culture, bringing Korea's spirit to the world. A beautiful culture, connecting heart to heart. We now strive to safeguard Taekwondo's community training culture as a treasured heritage for all humanity. The pride of Korea, Taekwondo.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea is now looking beyond AI and semiconductors for its next engines of growth. The Yi administration unveiled an ambitious technology strategy centered on 7 projects, ranging from nuclear energy and quantum computing to space and renewable energy. U.S. inflation eased in July, with consumer prices rising 3.4% from a year earlier, marking a slight slowdown from the previous month's annual inflation rate. This raises expectations that the Federal Reserve could keep key interest rates on hold as it assesses the direction of the economy. U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington has total control over the Strait of Hormuz, a claim Iran has disputed. Meanwhile, Tehran also says there have been no discussions with Washington about extending the ceasefire, since Tehran considers that the truce never formally started. We begin this morning in the Middle East. As tensions persist between Washington and Tehran, uncertainty remains over both the future of their ceasefire and the reopening of one of the world's most important energy shipping routes. The two sides are now offering sharply different accounts of who holds the upper hand and whether diplomatic efforts are making any progress. Our Moon starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump has repeated his claim that the United States maintains total control over the Strait of Hormuz, even as Iran disputes reports that the two countries have agreed to extend their fragile ceasefire. Taking to Truth Social on Wednesday, he said that Washington would maintain its control of the strategic waterway, following similar claims a day earlier, insisting that Iran cannot dictate conditions.
I don't trust Iran. Why? Are you saying I trust Iran? I'm the last person to trust Iran. They've lied to me constantly. We have total control over the Hormuz Strait right now. They don't have control. We have total control. We own it.
However, shipping data from the Wall Street Journal paints a different picture. Only 14 vessels crossed the strait on Tuesday, compared with more than 130 a day before the war, with 11 of them using a route administered by Iran. Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority, the body set up to manage transit through the waterway, pushed back on Trump's claim in a statement on X, saying the strait remains blocked and will not be reopened until Iran's conditions are accepted. His remarks come as conflicting reports on the ceasefire emerge. Turkey's state-run Anadolu agency reported Wednesday that Washington and Tehran, through Pakistani mediation, had notified Islamabad that they would extend the 60-day truce set to expire on August 17th. The ceasefire, part of a war-ending memorandum signed on June 17th, followed months of fighting between the two nations. A senior Iranian official, however, told Reuters that there had been no discussions with Washington about extending the ceasefire, since Tehran considers the truce never formally started and therefore sees nothing to extend. Trump also claimed Wednesday that Iran's economy has collapsed under a U.S. naval blockade, citing inflation above 300%. Control of the Strait of Hormuz, through which about a fifth of the world's oil once flowed, has become the central sticking point in efforts to de-escalate the 5-month conflict. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Colombia has declared 3 days of national mourning after a powerful earthquake killed more than 200 people, as rescue crews continue searching for survivors trapped beneath the rubble. The government says flags will be lowered to half-staff at official buildings in Colombian embassies around the world in honor of the victims. Monday's magnitude 7.4 earthquake was the strongest to strike Colombia in a century. Government figures show at least 2,595 people were injured, while 195 remain officially missing. However, civilian-run databases suggest the true number of people still unaccounted for could be closer to 4,000, as rescue operations continue in the hardest-hit areas. U.S. inflation cooled slightly in July, with consumer prices rising 3.4% from a year earlier, as energy and housing costs eased. The latest figures could strengthen expectations that the Federal Reserve will keep key interest rates on hold, while it waits for more signs that inflation is under control. Our Lee Seung-jae tells us more.
U.S. inflation eased slightly in July, adding to expectations that the Federal Reserve may keep interest rates unchanged as it assesses the direction of the economy. The U.S. Labor Department says the Consumer Price Index rose 3.4% in July from a year earlier, down from 3.5% in June, and in line with market expectations. Consumer prices increased just 0.1% from the previous month. Core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, also cooled. Core CPI rose 2.5% from a year earlier, compared with 2.6% in June, while increasing 0.2% month on month. Lower energy prices helped ease overall inflationary pressure. Energy costs dropped another 1.5% in July after falling sharply in June. Shelter costs, which have been one of the most persistent sources of inflation, rose just 0.1% for the month. The latest figures continue a recent cooling trend, with annual inflation falling from 4.2% in May to 3.5% in June, and now 3.4% in July. That could give the Federal Reserve more room to hold rates steady while watching incoming economic data.
There clearly are some voices who believe that an increase in rates would be appropriate, but given the potential increased weakness in the labor market that we observed in that jobs report, that might make it a little more likely that they hold things steady.
Markets are paying particularly close attention to inflation figures under Fed Chair Kevin Warsh, who took office in May and has emphasized the Fed's commitment to price stability and maximum employment. The Fed last month left its benchmark overnight interest rate in the 3.50% to 3.75% range. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And now for more on what the U.S. Consumer Price Index report suggests, we're joined today by Professor Song Soo-young, professor at the College of Business and Economics at Chungang University. Professor Song, thanks for coming on today.
Yes, good morning to you.
So what do you make of the latest U.S. Consumer Price Index report? What does it tell us about the current state of the U.S. economy?
In comparison to the inflation gauge, actually, the Korea has shown that recently a little bit lower than this slowing South Korean inflation rate, 2.8% right now in July. So in comparison to 3.4% of U.S. inflation, relatively Korean inflation is lower than the United States. So that's why it is natural we have a little bit lower interest rate than the basic interest rate in the United States, the federal funds rate. But however, the recent trend has shown that particularly what is most important for the determination of a federal decision over the interest rate is based upon the personal consumption expenditure inflation. So to that regards, it is a little bit higher than inflation rate right now. So, but it had the tendency, the trend has shown that declining. So I expect most likely for the Fed meeting in the September would be just retain the current level of interest rate, and inflation rate shows some declining trend over the next several months. The primary reason is because there are the most primary factors that could push the price could go up, such as a World Cup tournament event held in the U.S. has been over, and that's why we have seen that the overall core inflation rate has been dropped.
Right, so this is well above the Fed's 2% inflation target, but it did mark a slight cool down from an annual inflation rate of 3.5% in the month before in June. So how might this affect the Fed's decision on interest rates and its policy going forward?
Yeah, recently, since the taking over the chairperson status of the federal committee, and the Kevin Walsh, who is a chairperson of the Federal Reserve System, has shown that he would like to reduce some meeting frequency over the next under his control. So that implies he would like to give up the forward guidance anymore, and he would not likely to reveal or disclose the information and the discussion among the members in the Federal Reserve Committee. So it implies that relatively the market has faced a little bit opaque situation. But however, the Kevin Walsh's most important, as is mentioned in the previous report, is the price level. So he would like to continue the current trend. He would like to also keep the price go down, and then he is not anymore worried about some hawkish stance for the interest rate to hike to hold in the price level, because there is always some the factors that could reduce the inflation rate for the upcoming several months. But there is also possibility 50 and 50 chance to raise because, for example, the reignition or the restart of the war over the Hormuz Strait control between the U.S. and Iran. That is always a kind of a threat to take place anytime. But the overall trend in the economic behavior and the primary concern of the price level in the United States, that has shown that declining trend.
Right, and as for the impact on South Korea, the Korean won has remained relatively strong in recent weeks compared to the U.S. dollar. What impact could this easing of inflation in the United States have on the foreign exchange market and the Korean won?
Currently, primarily the current level of 1,410 or 20 level of nominal exchange rate of Korean won per United States dollar is, I believe, is still very high, because purchasing power parity exchange rate of Korean won has been hovering over 840, 850 or something. So to that regard, the same is also true to Japanese yen. So that means that currently nominal exchange rate is over inflated for Korean won, which means Korean won has been underappreciated. So it means the overall trend is going to be a downward trend over Korean won against the US dollar. But the interest rate parity plays a very important role for the change and fluctuation of the nominal exchange rate. So because of that, so what is important to determine the nominal exchange rate is like some interest rate level between the different discrepancy between Korea and the US. U.S. is a 3.5 and 3.75 percentage point range, but whereas we are in the just a 2.5 percentage point range. So that difference reflects the increased exchange rate for Korean won against the U.S. dollar. But overall, I believe that as long as the current economic performance and current level of the GDP growth rate for Korea sustained, I believe that will decline over time.
I see. All right, Professor Song, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Korea has been stepping up efforts to stay ahead in the global race for AI and semiconductors. And President Lee Jae-myung is now looking further ahead, unveiling 7 cutting-edge fields the government sees as the country's next engines of growth. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports.
Korea is already betting big on AI and semiconductors. But President Lee Jae-myung says the country needs to look beyond today's growth engines to technologies that could shape its economy decades from now.
최근 주목받고 있는 첨단 기술의 공통적인 특징은 기술 교체 주기가 무척 빠르다는 점, 인공지능 시대 그 다음에 먹거리를 우리가 미리 준비해야 합니다.
Chairing a meeting on Korea's long-term growth strategy on Wednesday, Lee unveiled what the government calls the SEED initiative. Short for Strategic Emerging Engines for Disruptive Innovation, it focuses on 7 fields spanning 3 broad areas: clean energy, frontier technology, and supply chain resilience.
오늘 우리가 뿌린 첨단 기술 씨앗들이 미래에는 거대한 나무로 자라나서 새로운 메가 프로젝트로 자라나게 될 것으로 믿습니다.
Among the goals are commercializing Korea's light water small modular reactor technology by 2035, landing a domestically developed spacecraft on the moon by 2030, and building a homegrown quantum computer by 2029. Korea is hardly alone in looking this far ahead. Both the United States and China have already made fields such as quantum computing and nuclear fusion national strategic priorities. But Seoul's push has an economic security dimension as well. While Korea is a manufacturing powerhouse in sectors such as semiconductors and electric vehicles, many of the materials, parts, and equipment underpinning those industries still come from abroad.
Korea accounts for just 2.3% of the semiconductor equipment market and 3% of the anode materials market for secondary batteries. In particular, 99% of the heavy rare earths used in permanent magnets, which are essential for robotics, are imported.
To reduce that vulnerability, the government plans to expand domestic refining and processing capacity, recycle critical minerals, including rare earths, and reduce reliance on any single supplier. The Lee administration says it will support the 7 initiatives with sustained funding and regulatory reforms while continuing to identify promising fields that could power the country's economy in the decades ahead. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea's southern Gyeongsangnam-do Province suffers from a severe drought this summer. 200 water tankers and around 400 firefighters have been deployed to supply water to drought-hit communities and farms. Our Chung Hae-rim reports.
South Korea has mobilized firefighting resources from across the country to help tackle a severe drought in Gyeongsangnam-do Province. A national firefighting mobilization order was issued Tuesday evening, sending 200 water tankers and around 400 firefighters from 16 regional fire headquarters to drought-hit areas. The vehicles began their arrival on Wednesday morning and are being deployed across the province. The drought follows an unusually dry monsoon season and weeks of intense heat. As of Wednesday, the average water reserve rate at Gyeongsangnam-do Province stood at just over 33%, less than half the seasonal average. In Miryang, one of the hardest hit areas, the figure has fallen to around 26% and has received the largest deployment of assistance, with 40 water tankers sent to supply agricultural and household water. According to the Agricultural Drought Management System, drought alerts are now in place in 17 of the province's 18 cities and counties, with Miryang, Gyeongsangnam-do, and Hamham under the critical alert, the highest level. Officials say more than 2,100 hectares of farmland have already suffered drought damage. Some communities without access to regional water networks are also facing restricted supplies, relying on water trucks and bottled water. The mobilized fire crews will continue delivering water through Thursday. This marks the second time South Korea has issued a national firefighting mobilization order in response to drought, following a similar operation in Gangneung last year. 정혜림, Arirang News.
A simple shower may be part of everyday life for most, but for those experiencing homelessness, it can be a luxury. Now, a government program is working to make that more accessible for the homeless. Our Shin So-eun has a story.
In Pampo, amid the blend of old and new buildings that presents the evolving identity of Central Seoul, a city government-led initiative has become an oasis for the homeless. In the scorching summer heat, free mobile shower units provided by the Seoul Metropolitan Government, each carrying around 600 liters of water and serving roughly 20 people a day, have become a welcome source of relief. More than just a shower, the 다시서기 service offers welfare support, including new clothes, toiletries, and food at least 2 times a week.
For them, taking a shower is about more than just personal hygiene. It also helps them feel comfortable being in public spaces and gives them a sense that they can be part of the community alongside others.
According to Seoul officials, 1,577 people used the city's mobile shower services between May and the end of July this year, up more than 30% from the same period last year. At the 5 locations currently operating across Seoul, visitors appear a little shy at first, but there's also a visible sense of anticipation.
These days, going to a public bath or sauna can cost around 15,000 won, and that's not something we can easily afford. So I'm very grateful to the staff who come here and give us a place to shower for free.
Outside the shower booth, face-to-face interaction with social workers also helps visitors.
Even when the free shower service isn't operating, the social workers still come by to check on us, ask if we're having any difficulties or need anything, and provide as much support as they can.
What begins as a simple conversation can give a helping hand towards finding new opportunities in life and even employment. A simple shower can become a first point of connection, helping them identify what support they need. In that sense, mobile shower serves as a starting point towards greater independence. Shin So-eun, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. In Russia, a Ukrainian attack on the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk has shut down 2 major grain terminals and damaged warships. Ukraine's security service says it struck a naval base with drones and missiles, and President Vladimir Zelensky says 2 frigates, a landing ship, and a corvette were hit. Russian officials say at least 2 people were killed in the attacks on Wednesday, including an 8-year-old child. The city's mayor said more than 24 homes were damaged. Wheat futures jumped 3% after the attack, as Russia is the world's biggest wheat exporter. In the United States, President Trump said on Wednesday that White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt is stepping down at the end of the month. At 28, Leavitt is the youngest person ever to hold the job. She says she aims to spend more time with her 2 young children and will stay on as an outside communications advisor to keep shaping Trump's Make America Great Again movement. In Spain, a total solar eclipse swept across the north of the country on Wednesday evening, turning day into darkness. Totality lasted less than a minute, just after 8:30 in the evening. A solar eclipse is when the moon passes between the sun and earth, blocking the light and casting shadow on the earth. One viewer said the colors came back little by little, first the reds, then the blues. Iceland also saw a total eclipse, and large parts of Europe saw a partial eclipse. The last time there was a total solar eclipse in Spain was in 1912. In Austria, thieves have taken 210 small gold statues of Mozart from his hometown of Salzburg. Officials said on Wednesday only about a third of the 320 figures are left. The German artist who designed the polymer figures believes it was an organized theft rather than souvenir hunters. He planned to sell the statues for about $114 once the exhibition was over. The remaining statues will be on display until August 30th.
The morning began on a pleasantly cool note with temperatures below 25 degrees in most areas. But sunshine will quickly push temperatures higher, and those in Daegu will notice a big rise this afternoon. Meanwhile, the remnants of Typhoon Chanhom are sending rain clouds over the East Sea. Rain will continue on and off along the east coast through tomorrow with up to 50 millimeters expected. It is a welcome rain for those in Gyeongsangnam-do Province, as this rain will ease the dryness in the area. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 33 degrees Celsius. Daegu and Gwangju will be sizzling hot at 34 degrees with some passing showers expected in inland regions. Please keep an umbrella handy. Looking ahead, showers are expected across many parts of the country tomorrow and on Liberation Day. Then there will be nationwide rain on Sunday night, which will continue into Monday. Take the weather into account for the long weekend.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
For thousands of years, one breath has endured. More than a martial art, it is the Korean way of life. Taekwondo, connecting the world. Smarter than ever, Taekwondo leaps toward a new future, connecting the world through a single movement. The spirit of Korea meets the boundless energy of K-pop. No longer just a sport, Taekwondo is at the heart of K-culture, bringing Korea's spirit to the world. A beautiful culture, connecting heart to heart. We now strive to safeguard Taekwondo's community training culture as a treasured heritage for all humanity. The pride of Korea, Taekwondo.
오늘은 대한민국 임시정부를 이끌었던 김구 선생님의 백범일지를 살펴볼 거예요. 그분이 평생을 바쳐지키려 했던
끊임없이 가지고 싶은 것은 높은 문화의 힘입니다. 문화의 힘은 우리 자신을 행복하게 하고 나아가서 남에게 행복을 주기 때문입니다. 나는 우리나라가 세계에서 가장 아름다운 나라가 되기를 원합니다.
Held its first debate over the weekend. The economy is expected to expand 2.5% this year.
Boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of the status UN summit. A massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday.
Arirang.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, August 13th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is
Hello, Soo-jin.
Good to have you, and also Keys with us today.
Morning.
Good to have you, and both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're heading towards the end of the work week, and there's no shortage of stories getting people talking, from viral food and drink trends to the latest buzz from around the globe. Let's see what's making headlines. And one Korean favorite is quickly becoming one global phenomenon. So how popular has soju become overseas, Jian?
Yes, today we are talking about soju in the early morning. Soju is actually all the rage, very popular indeed. That familiar little green bottle is now turning up all over the world. Soju has come a long way from being a local favorite in Korea. Today, it is sold in around 80 different countries, with overseas sales continuing to gain momentum. And it's not just Korean communities living abroad that are driving the demand. Soju is striking a chord with younger drinkers around the world. I'm talking about Gen Z and millennials. Well, the global rise of K-pop, K-dramas, and Korean food has certainly helped put soju on the map. So for many young consumers, sharing a bottle has become part of the wider Korean culture, K-culture experience. So there's even a playful meme online that says, all the cool kids drink soju, those who are stylish, fashionable, socially popular, they drink soju. So apparently cool now comes in a green bottle.
And I think that's what's so cool is that it's young people from all over the globe that is saying that. So what do you have to say about the popularity of soju?
So thrilled to talk about something that I really enjoy. My rather quote unquote, since this lies in your expertise, you're going to have a lot to talk about, which is yes. So mix of soju and beer is also hugely popular in Korea, especially at group dinners and casual get-togethers. The name itself, soju and mekju, the Korean word for beer, people even have their own ratio. It was called golden ratio. The picture you're seeing right now, I just came back from Hawaii yesterday from a business trip, and you can see from the bottom where the green bottles lie, right? That's one of the souvenir stores in Hawaii. A lot of people go there and buy actual soju. And another trend these days is flavor soju, just like you can see over there, peach, grapefruit, and then also the strawberries. It's very approachable because it contains less alcohol contents, and also it's easy to drink, sweet. So even for those who are not familiar with alcohol drinks, they can still enjoy them.
So I just want to emphasize that that photo was taken in Hawaii. So that's how common.
I actually took it myself.
Right.
At a souvenir store to get some aloha souvenirs, and I saw a lot of people getting soju. So there was welcoming environment.
Well, it's actually very, very interesting and cool. So you can clearly show that how far soju has come. It's no longer just something people try out of curiosity. It's becoming part of everyday drinking culture in many places. And that's why we're going to talk more about this. But first, let's take a look at the screen. For years, soju was something people associated with everyday life in Korea, shared over dinner with friends and family, or seen in countless Korean dramas and movies. But beyond Korea's borders, it was a relatively unfamiliar drink. Today, that's changing. As Korean culture continues to captivate audiences worldwide, soju is finding fans across the globe, with overseas demand and exports reaching new heights. So today on News Generation, we take a closer look at just how popular soju has become overseas, why foreigners are falling in love with Korea's signature spirit, and our guests' favorite ways to enjoy it. As you saw in a video, soju is no longer just a Korean drink. It's becoming a global phenomenon, and the numbers seem to back that up. So he showed us photos of soju appearing in souvenir stores in Hawaii, of all places. So can you tell us the figures or the numbers that show how popular it actually is?
Of course. But before I talk about the figures, well, after seeing those photos, pictures, well, in fact, mouth-watering and, thirsty a little bit. I don't know the specific reasons. But I do have some numbers, specific numbers. They paint a pretty clear picture here. According to the Korea Customs Service, soju exports have been on the steady rise since 2021. And export value rose from $82.4 million in 2021 to more than $104 million in 2024. So that's roughly a 27% increase in just 3 years. And the US and Japan lead the pack, in fact, with soju even finding its way into baseballs and football stadiums and sports pubs across the US. Also in Europe, the UK has seen remarkable growth, with soju sales reportedly rising by an average of 75% a year over the past 3 years. Wow. And like Ki-hyun, I have actually experienced some themes, a growing presence firsthand. When I was in Italy, I was surprised to see soju being served at ordinary local restaurants. Really? And even surprised. Yes, it's amazing to see that on display in a popular drink section at supermarkets, not on the bottom, the popular section. So, and also its appeal is gaining ground across Southeast Asia, with Vietnam even welcoming its first local soju production facility. I have actually noticed something similar in Southeast Asia as well, too. So in some places, soju is treated almost as a premium drink, something that you drink on a special day, not an ordinary drink. So perhaps the most interesting shift is what people are drinking now. Yes, fruit flavored soju has surged in popularity among younger consumers, and last year its export value overtook of traditional soju for the first time. So it seems the sweeter the soju, the bigger the splash
Right, and it's also interesting how it's being received because you mentioned how it's now sometimes seen as a premium drink, which is a bit different than how it's perceived in Korea. So it is interesting to see how it's also being enjoyed overseas with different fruit flavors, bringing people in who might not normally even drink spirits in the first place. So then we talked about how it's being enjoyed all over the world. So what makes it so appealing to foreign drinkers?
Only a small thing right now, the soju, because to make our crowd or spectators less fierce or less passionate, for now the baseball stadiums don't allow any alcohol that contains more than 5% of alcohol, so only beer and maybe makgeolli. But you know, and soju usually has an alcohol content of 15 to 18%, which used to be a bit stronger than my 20s, where soju was normally around 23, and my father's generation was about 25 or 27, but it's still mild compared to a spirit or whiskey that a lot of people or foreign people drink. So it has sometimes been described overseas as a Korean vodka, but smoother. Its lighter strength also means people can sip it over a longer period of time, which fits perfectly with the Korean style of drinking. In Korea, soju is traditionally served in small shot glasses with a bottle shared among several people at the table drinking together as part of the experience. People pour drinks for one another, make toasts, and usually enjoy soju alongside the food. Overseas, however, soju is a little bit different image. It has become known as a fun party drink. On social media, you can even see people putting a straw directly into a soju bottle. Another reason for its popularity is that soju can feel lighter and easier to drink when you're drinking compared to a stronger spirit. Fruit flavor soju, especially, it takes it in further. It usually has a less alcohol content, and it has many different flavors: the green grape, grapefruit and strawberry. And also Korean pop culture has played a major role in soju's global popularity. Drinking scenes appear frequently in K-dramas, K-movies, and variety shows, from friends sharing a bottle over a Korean barbecue. And as Korean content has gained fans around the world, soju has become the part of the Korean experience. Some international fans imitate Korean people drinking on the screen, such as pouring drinks for others, holding glass with two hands like this to be fair, and then also turning slightly away when drinking in front of an elder, saying "건배" before taking a sip. So they're learning the etiquette of how you drink in Korean culture.
I think that's a pretty interesting combination of drink that's relatively approachable on its own, but has also become closely tied to Korean drinking culture that people see in Korean movies, Korean dramas. And as soju becomes more familiar around the world, the way people drink it is also evolving. And that's why we wanted to hear directly from our viewers. So we ran a poll on our YouTube channel asking, why do you like soju? And here's what the results showed. So the most popular answer was a variety of fruit flavors at 42%, followed by its relatively lower alcohol content at 28%. Another 21% said they enjoy soju because of the influence of Korean content, while 9% chose its lower calorie content. So the results suggest that soju's appeal goes beyond simply being a traditional Korean drink. Its range of flavors and approachable taste seem to be helping attract a wider audience, while the global popularity of Korean dramas and other Korean content is also introducing more people to the whole soju experience. So to find out what makes Korean soju so appealing this time from a foreigner's perspective, we're going to hear from someone who enjoys and knows Korean alcohol firsthand. And that conversation will take place right after the break.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
We're joined now by Jade from the Philippines, who is a fan of Korean soju. So hello, Jade. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be back again. Thank you so much.
It's nice to talk to you again. So, Jade, how did you first discover soju, and what do you love most about it?
Well, honestly, it was because of K-dramas or other Korean variety shows and Korean contents. You see the characters sitting at those late night food tents, pouring drinks for each other, and I think it just looks so cozy. And back then, I spent so much time wondering if it was as sweet and smooth as everyone on screen made it look. So I was really curious back then about how or what it actually tasted like. So as soon as I turned 18, I finally tried it we had a Korean barbecue that night along with my family friends. And at first, it definitely felt like a strong drink. I couldn't lie. But it really grew on me and I ended up loving it. So we even played the bottle cap game where you flick the little metal twist on the cap. And I think that made the night so much fun and memorable. So yeah, that's really what I love about soju. It's not just about the flavors, it's not just about the drink. It's literally about gathering around good food, good talks, having laughs, and making great memories with people you love.
Yes, Jade, it seems like something tells me soju has a special place in your heart. You know, the particular game that we play while we drink soju. Then how popular is soju in the Philippines?
It's everywhere now. Soju has become so popular in the Philippines, especially among young people or young Filipinos who are into Korean content. And a lot of Filipinos, including myself, were first introduced to it through watching shows or going out for a Korean barbecue night. And I remember a few years back, you had to hunt for it in a specialty Asian grocery stores. But now you can walk into almost any corner of the convenience stores or supermarkets and find a whole row of different flavors of it. There are so many options now, and I think almost everyone has a go-to flavors they swear by. So Filipinos really love to have an excuse to get together and share food. So those light fruity flavors are just fit into our weekend hangouts.
Sure, hopefully soju isn't too expensive in Philippines. Let's say you have a person who is drinking soju for the first time, then what would you tell them how to drink? And also, what's your personal favorite?
For the first timers, if it's your very first time, you do yourself a flavor. I suggest you skip the plain original one and start with the flavored one instead. And my absolute go-to is the peach flavor because it's sweet, refreshing, and it's really easy to drink. And of course, there's other ways you can enjoy the soju, and a really fun mix you can try is the classic soju Yakult combo. Well, you can pull your favorite soju flavors. Mine is like peach, and mix in some Yakult and top it off with a bit of a Sprite or a cider over ice. And yeah, it turns into this sweet, bubbly drink that goes really well with hot grilled meat, Korean barbecues, fried chicken, or other savory food. And yes, to those who are first timers, my main tip though, it really goes really smooth, but it can definitely sneak you up by the next morning. So remember to always drink responsibly. Take your time, enjoy the moment, enjoy the good food, and just literally enjoy it with friends.
I mean, I'm really glad that we had you on because it was so interesting to hear about that you have your own concoction of sorts of how you mix your soju. And also, thank you for mentioning that disclaimer about how it can really hit you all of a sudden.
Yeah. Actually, it could hit with the amount of alcohol. Others may think like, oh, it's not that strong, but yeah, it could. If you drank a lot, then definitely can hit you up by the next morning. So just like the other alcoholic drinks, of course.
Right, exactly. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights with us today, Jade.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a soju fan from the Philippines about how she first discovered soju, why she enjoys it, how popular it has become back home, and even her recommendations for first-time drinkers. But there's much more to Korean soju than many overseas fans might realize. So what are some unique, this time regional soju brands that you think people should know about, Jihyun?
Well, in Korea, we have a variety of different types of soju. Well, many young international businesses on a short trip to South Korea tend to stay in Seoul a lot. So they mostly come across household names like Tamise or 처음처럼. But venue beyond the capital, they can discover that many regions have a variety soju brand of their own, often closely tied to local identity. So let's take a look at the map. Here are some of Korea's best-known soju brands by region. Let's start from Jeju Island. Jeju Island, for example, is home to Hallasan, named after South Korea's highest mountain, a volcano that towers over the island. Hallasan is made with Jeju's volcanic bedrock water and is known for its rich aroma and relatively high alcohol content, which it stand out for many mainstream soju. So I actually brought a bottle back from Jeju recently and still in my fridge because it's too special to rush. And further east, Busan has Daesan, while neighboring Gyeongsangnam-do Province is known for 좋은 day or good day. And down in Jeollado provinces, Ipseju is a familiar local favorite. So depending on where you travel in Korea, your local glass of soju may tell a totally different story.
I mean, that map was so interesting because I think people know obviously the big brand sojus, but to see it represent each region is quite interesting.
Different ones.
And also, I wonder if they taste a bit different too.
A little bit different.
Does it?
Yes.
So interesting. So it is fascinating that soju has so much regional character, almost like local craft specialties that tourists never get to experience. And it turns out that's only part of the story. So what are some other regional soju varieties that people can try when they visit Korea?
Right, so apart from what Juhyun said, like the famous Hallasan and Daesan, other people also have local brands. So Daegu, for example, Cham Soju is a quite favorite one for them, and the Gangwon State has regional brands such as Donghae Bampada or the Night Beach and the East Sea and 맑은 Gangwon, clear Gangwon. And in Daejeon, other parts of the Chungcheong region, we also have Seonyang, and it has been marketed for its higher dissolved oxygen content, which earned the nickname of oxygen soju. So at a first glance, these regional soju may all look similar, but actually for serious soju fans, like you asked before, it's got a subtle difference, the different sweetness, aroma, smoothness, alcohol content, and even the aftertaste. So nowadays we even have this thing called sommelier, looking after sommelier who tastes and then try to look for the difference between the wine. But here we have different branded soju. So when you do come to Korea, just don't stick to the one brand, but try out all different sorts of local brand, and that would help.
Yeah, and I think these are all really good recommendations. And what started as a drink enjoyed mainly in Korea has become a symbol of Korean culture around the world. And as more people discover soju through travel, food, and Korean content, its global popularity is likely to keep growing. And with so many regional varieties and ways to enjoy it, there's always something new to raise a glass to. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. My News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. Big thanks to Juhyun.
To be here.
And also Ki.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully your spirits for the rest of the week stay as high as soju's popularity. We are News Generation.
How to survive in Korea. Barbecue restaurants. Step 1. Taking care of your clothes. Put your jacket in the plastic bag. Seal it tight. If the stool flips open, store your clothes inside. Wearing light colors? Grab an apron. It's the best defense against oil splatter and smoke. Step 2. Bottomless side dishes. Basic side dishes at a barbecue restaurant. Eat, and eat as much as you want. Side dishes come with free refills. Oh, and if you don't see this sign, just ask, 사장님, 여기 밑반찬 좀 더 주세요. Simple, isn't it? Step 3. Grilling meat. There are various kinds of samgyeopsal in Korea. Place the meat on the grill. Turn it over when golden. And again when it looks done. Again and again and again. Step 4. Sam style. You aren't taking bites of sam like a taco, are you? In Korea, we have it in one bite. A pro tip here. Add only as much as you can handle in a bite. Gotta avoid awkward situations. Step 5. Enjoy the perks. After the meal, enjoy the perks offered as a Korean restaurant. Fabric refreshers get rid of the barbecue smell, while mint candies freshen your breath. Did you survive the barbecue restaurant? Hang on. Are you here with someone you want to impress? Then let's skip the garlic. Who knows what will happen?
Are you curious about Korean cultural heritage?
If you are a fan of Korean culture and history, listen up. Korean cultural heritage is based on a 5,000-year history.
The whole country is like a massive museum because it possesses such diverse cultural properties. Let's not wait any longer and take a look.
First, for beginners. For those who are not familiar with Korea,